Shalom, Ruddle Maniacs. It's that time of year when I evaluate how things went for my comedy career in the year that just passed in order to create a more perfect career going forward. I crunch the numbers, note anything interesting that pops up, evaluate how well I did on my goals for the previous year, and set some new ones for the year to come. It's time for the 2024 State of the Ramble. You can also read this. I've written down the list, all my goals and everything. Head along to patreon.com/Taylor Ruddle Comedy. You can check that out for free. You don't have to be a member to do that. I'll probably chuck it up on the Reddit as well, r/Ruddle Me This. So let's crack straight into it. First of all, how did I do on my goals from 2023? The goals I set at the end of 2023 were: aim to gig 4 nights a week, working towards stability, develop a routine for better work-life balance, working on a new show called, for the Fringe Circuit called Panic at the Buffet, and collaborating on audiobooks for Plains FM and exploring new podcast opportunities. Gotta be honest, the weird wording there comes from the fact that I put the last transcript through ChatGPT and just told it to give me some goals for the next year. So, how did I do? First one, aim to gig 4 nights a week, working towards stability. I'm going to give myself a check for that. I came pretty close. I was consistently doing 3 to 4 nighttime gigs a week, probably erring more like on 4 to 5 some weeks, and then I had heaps of stuff during the day, like simulated patient acting work, podcasting, radio, or just, graphic design. I picked up a little bit of podcast editing work on the side. So yeah, it's been a busy year. I definitely kept busy, that's for sure. Next goal, develop a routine for better work-life balance. I'm going to give myself a check for that as well. I've been taking my diet more seriously this year. That's been historically, I think, the thing that's always been holding me back. I suspect I have ARFID, which I don't remember what it stands for, but I talked to Ocean Denim on the podcast about this, and it's like a textures thing with food, so I have it's not as limited as it used to be, but I have a very limited kind of palate for foods that I can tolerate. Annoyingly enough, I get sick of the same foods kind of quickly as well, so I'm really being hit by a double whammy there. And the classic thing with people with ARFID or other just like eating, I guess it's an eating disorder, especially if you watch that show Freaky Eaters, you'll notice they all eat the same kind of things. It's like always potatoes, cheese, anything that's just like starchy and processed, because it's consistent. That's the main thing. So I've been working on finding foods that are both healthy and I can tolerate repeatedly, and it's sort of been a bit of a process. Sometimes we have several steps forward and then some steps back, but I'm really happy with the place that my diet is in at the moment. I recently had a bit of a revelation where I sort of thought why? I don't know why, but I had it in my head that, you have to eat different things. You have to eat different things to have like a sort of varied diet. But then I honestly saw a TikTok or an Instagram post where someone wrote, he was like a bodybuilder, I think, and it said something about when you want to have an interesting diet, but really all you eat is chicken, broccoli, and rice. And then it was a weird light bulb moment for me. I thought, wait, yeah, bodybuilders eat the same thing every day, and they're, quote unquote healthy. I guess if they're doing steroids and stuff like that, it's not as healthy, but eating the same thing every day, as long as it's healthy, is not a bad thing. So that was a little bit of a light bulb moment for me. So I just bought, I sort of did some experiments, bought a bunch of stuff that I can make kind of in bulk. I've been moving away from processed starch mainly. That was my biggest, breads and pastas. That was my main sort of weakness. And so I've been doing things like marinating eggs. Fish is basically my favorite type of meat. I struggle with a lot of other types of meat, so I've just been eating salmon and tuna, which probably means I'm going to get mercury poisoning, but I mean, you got to die of something, right? And then I bought a bicycle this year, which I've been going on to just sort of get my fitness up a bit where I can, and I hung a boxing bag in the garage, which I've been working at too. So yeah, I'm giving myself a check for that because my habits are a lot healthier than they were last year. Next goal, working on a new show for the Fringe Circuit titled Panic at the Buffet. Big check for this one. It actually just released a few days ago, 26th of December. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. Did the show at the Fringe. We did the Nelson and the Dunedin Fringe run. And the actual Fringe runs of the show were not that successful. I didn't really get the audience sizes I was hoping for. so that was kind of a back to the drawing board moment there. But the actual taping at Little Andromeda was probably the best night of comedy I've ever had in my life, so very successful there. I'm very happy with the special, and I hope you like it too. Last goal was a bit of a weird one, collaborating on audiobooks for Plains FM and exploring new podcast opportunities. Big check for that one. The audiobook I recorded ended up being a massive undertaking. Several months. I think I've talked about this before, but I thought it was going to take a couple of weekends, but it was about 6 to 8 months. So yeah, but I'm really glad that I stuck to the project and finished it. I have a terrible habit for not finishing projects, so that I'm giving myself a check for that. Alright, so what were some of the highlights of 2024? A few of us drove down to Dunedin to perform on a show called Courtyard Comedy with Gerard Doherty, who was the one who produced that. Incredible gig, basically packed the place out, and it was one of the best crowds for one-liners. I'm not sure why, but they really couldn't get enough of my one-liners that night. I always enjoy going down to Dunedin to gig. I think they've got a really cool scene down there. Everybody's really cool. There's very little drama, and Gerard's one of my best buddies, so yeah, big highlight. Good Street Beats, street comedy in Rangiora. There's a really cool initiative that the Waimakariri District Council have, where they have a performance stage you can use on Good Street, I think it's called, and they were hoping to get some musicians and other performers in there over like a summer sort of initiative called Good Street Beats. I turned up and did some stand-up comedy kind of in the middle of the street. It was a really nerve-wracking experience. I had to laugh because as soon as I started up, there was a big truck behind me emptying goods, and with how far away I was from everyone, I really couldn't tell if they were enjoying it or not. I could hear laughs here and there, but it was a lot of, I guess, just like office workers came out to check it out, and there actually some people pulled up on a blanket and watched, which I was like really warmed my heart to see. And then an old lady came up afterwards and she said she normally doesn't like stand-up comedians, but she likes me. So yeah, I think it was a successful event. I had been trying to set up a sort of summer busking, we would maybe call it like street jokes or street jokers or something like that, to do a like something over the summer where I bring like a lineup of comics in, but I put in my application with the council and they never got back to me. I probably should have chased them up on it, but at the same time, that's kind of slack from the council side. I don't know, maybe I'll chase them up and we can do something in January or February. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was scary as hell and nerve-wracking, but I'm glad I did it. Recording the Treasure Island audiobook at Plains FM, just spoke about that. You can go and check that out if you look up their website and look for Spin Me a Tale. Did a live recording of Ruddle Me This podcast. I'm sort of in two minds about whether I like live recordings or not. I personally hate listening to them when I'm listening to podcasts, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't fun to record them live, so I'm not sure. We might do more live ones going forward. I don't know. Would need to talk to Little Andromeda about that, who were the people that hosted it. Did a couple of charity shows for the Cancer Society. You've probably heard me go on about this before. I try to support the Cancer Society whenever I can. And yeah, I hope to do some more shows to raise some money for them in the future. They also let me tape my special Rudzilla there, which is like, it's just mad. So yeah, I have a lot of love and time for the Cancer Society. Hope to do more with them this year. Open for a comedian called Blake Pavey at the piano here in Christchurch. Blake is one of the young guns. He is represented by Keg Touring, I think they are. Luke Kidgel, who's arguably the biggest comic in Australia at the moment. These two guys are pretty much the example of, like, not YouTube comic, but like social media comedians. They posted clips relentlessly, built them a following, and now they can tour in these really, really cool venues around. I was Blake's opening act there. Have to say thank you to Craig Westenberg for recommending me to do that. Blake, super nice guy, his manager as well, and I got to feel like a little bit of a big shot. He did like a meet and greet after the show, and I had some people come up and ask for a photo with me, which was like, I don't even know how to. It's the weirdest feeling ever, but it's also it also feels really cool to have people in your hometown sort of acknowledge you and, kind of look at you like you're a proper comic. We taped the Rudzilla comedy special. I might have to do a video about this, about what what kind of went right and wrong. because we had some drama with the lights being far too powerful for the room on the night, so we ended up going with the house lights. It didn't look amazing, but I'm still happy with the final product. I probably should have taped it maybe 2 years ago when the material was a bit more kind of, I guess, fresh in my mind. But we make do, and I'm happy with the final special. It's nice to have it up there and sort of documented so that I can move on. For me, that getting that special recorded was more about closing the book on my Japan, like the Japan part of my life, and moving on. You can check that out on my YouTube page at Taylor Ruddle Comedy. Bought a bicycle and boxing bag. I talked about that before. Gave Nerd Night talk about pro wrestling. This was a lot of fun. Felt like I was back in Toastmasters again. Nerd Night are an awesome little organization. It's kind of like franchises, I guess. You start up like a Nerd Night your city. I think there's a Nerd Night Rolleston and a Nerd Night Christchurch. And they're really, really cool events. My talk, I think quite often they're quite scientific. A lot of people are talking about like scientific research they're doing in their own time or theories that they have, whereas mine was about professional wrestling. So apparently it was a really nice palate cleanser, like a sorbet in between the science ones. Flew up to Auckland for a weekend to host Beats by Bingo events. You can find the vlog I did of that on my YouTube page. It was a knackering weekend, but I felt like a real jet-setting superstar getting flown up to host some events sort of last minute, so that it was a lot of fun for me. It was very tiring, but it was a lot of fun, and I got to catch up with some of my buddies while I was up there. Taped Panic at the Buffet comedy special. Again, I've yapped on about this. You can watch this on my YouTube page. It dropped about a week ago. This for sure is my magnum opus so far. I'm hoping next year's special will, overtake it as my opus. But for now, this is probably the best thing I've ever done, so I would love it if you go and check it out. Leave a comment, leave a like, help the algorithm, recommend it to more people, share it with people that you like. I'd really be appreciative of it. Awarded Breakout Comedian of the South Island in the New Zealand Comedy Guild Awards. I have mixed feelings about about winning this 2 years in a row. It does feel a little bit of a oxymoron. I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels a bit odd to be sort of breakout twice in a row. But I don't know, a lot of us, I think, look at this award because, like, basically if you're in the North Island, there is a lot more awards that are kind of industry centric. Like, there's a sort of, we have like a best male comedian, best female comedian, and pretty much all of those are North Island comedians. So a lot of us tend to look at the Breakout Comedian of the South Island as kind of like not necessarily the best comedian, but maybe the comedian in the South Island who's having the best year. I feel a little bit more. I feel less uneasy with winning it twice if we look at it that way. It was Audrey Pawn for several years. She won, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row, and evidently now it's my turn to to be the journeyman gatekeeper that gatekeeps. No, I don't know. Yeah, obviously, really like sort of flattered that all the comics voted me as that. Semantics of the name aside, I'm really happy to have another trophy up on my wall. Maybe I'll win it 3 years. If I can get the three-peat next year, then I might have to have a word with the Comedy Guild and say, look, guys, don't put me up for that again, because it feels a bit like I broke out, then I broke back in, and then I broke out again. In that same awards, Ruddle Me This was again nominated for Best Online Content. Didn't win, was up against some stiff competition. I think last year it was only three or four of us got nominated for that, but this year it was about 6 or 7. So it's really cool to see that people are producing content. I think New Zealand comedians are starting to realise you have to have something online, which is something I've been pushing for a long time, so good to see. And then, consistently gigged 3 to 4 nights a week. I think, much like I think it was Jerry Seinfeld in his Awards a Stupid speech, he said the real reward is being able to do stand-up. And I think, the fact that I've managed to sustain myself self-employed for another year, just off the back of doing these sort of kind of piecemeal events, quizzes, comedy, a little bit of simulated patient acting, etc., is something I can pat myself on the back for. I think it's May the 4th when I have officially done it for 2 years. God knows what state the economy is going to be in at that point, and whether I have to get a job or not, we'll see. So now on to the lows of 2024. We struggled to get Tapas and Chuckles to take off at Moi Moi. Pretty standard pattern of events. You do a comedy show at a new venue, you get a massive turnout for the first one, and then, because it's new and the venue have their own following, so you're kind of reaching X amount of new people, and then it's just downhill from there. Usually you're never going to have a bigger turnout as you did on the first event because it's not new anymore. It's just, it's the thing. And so, we just have, I think it sucks because the venue don't realise the pattern of stand-up like that, and the first event going so well means that anything afterwards is just going to seem like a disappointment. So, but, my quiz is still going really well there. I think I'm hoping to get another kind of event in with them next year. So it's all good. Have a great relationship with Moi Moi. They're one of my favourite venues to work with. Stand up is not, it doesn't really work in that room. Had a middling Nelson Fringe run and a really bad Dunedin Fringe run. I've talked about this in a previous episode. I think you can look up, I don't remember what episode it is now, but if you just search Fringe in my podcast library, it should come up. Just had really mediocre Fringe season. Didn't get the numbers I was hoping for. The shows itself went okay. The Dunedin had some rough shows, but I love the Nelson Fringe. It's my favourite festival that I've done in New Zealand. I was really sad to make the decision that I'm not doing the Fringe in 2025. Just can't really afford the travel up there this year. And this is maybe a topic for another podcast, but the Fringe festival kind of ecosystem in New Zealand is really taking some knocks at the moment. I don't know if it's always been like this. Maybe Fringe performers have always been moaning about the state of things, but it just feels like a really negative. A lot of the performers that I know, I know a lot of performers that aren't doing the Fringe circuit this year, and I don't know. I don't want to speak too much on it because I'm not an expert, but I think there are several challenges that the Fringe festivals, like organisation teams, are facing. And it could be a myriad of factors. It could be general economic downturn. I think they just announced the other day that we're officially in a recession in New Zealand now. So it's not looking like it's going to improve anytime soon. But I guess just watch the space. We'll see what next year's going to look like. I should have my new show next year. I might have a little more disposable income to go to the festivals. Next one, had fun but bombed so badly at the Relay for Life. They had us try and do stand-up at the Relay for Life, which was not the right environment for stand-up to thrive. We realised that by the time we arrived at about 3 PM, these people have been running since like 8 AM, so they were not even really hearing us tell our jokes. They were just focused on putting one foot in front of the other, so it was not a good gig it was so much fun and we enjoyed the hell out of it, but if you look at it from like a laughs per minute, it was like one of my worst gigs of the year. We did not get many laughs. Another one, sold 11 tickets to a 200-seat theatre gig in Twizel. This was a big hit at the time. I sold just enough tickets to not lose. I think I maybe lost $5 on this gig, but I went down to Twizel for another event, Beats by Bingo event, and thought while I'm in town, I'll run a Giggles and Ghost Stories event at the theatre, because you can just hire out the theatre. And I think I screwed up in 2 accounts there. One is that I went in winter, which wasn't my choice, but I was down in winter, which Twizel is a summer town. People have summer homes down there, so they go down for summer. I think the population triples or doubles in summer. And then my other mistake was the fact that there was already an event on the night before, which was this bingo event, Beats by Bingo. I also remember one of the locals telling me there was a school disco on the night after, and I think for small town New Zealand, 3 night outs in a week is just too much. So I really fumbled that one. We tried to put on a Monday Punday show at Crafted Coffee Company, but nobody turned up, so we still went ahead and we tried our puns, but I think I overestimated the demand for a puns show. I think we're going to try one more in 2025 and see if that works, but it's not looking great. Next one, you've got the general economic downturn. Like I said, they just announced we're in a recession, resulting in things like quizzes, comedy nights, other entertainment gigs sort of being cancelled. I won't name like specific individual ones, but I've had we've had a few regular things pull the plug because they're just not getting the numbers they need to sustain it. Which I think, I mean, honestly, this is me being a little egotistical here, but it's not really a reflection on the events. It's just a reflection on the fact that people don't have disposable income. Like if you think about a quiz night's the sort of thing, you've got an extra sort of $50 to have some dinner and some drinks. Come out with your friends, and I just don't think they don't have any extra money at the moment. They're really struggling. So I don't know what the next year's going to look like for those. I think I'm still going to be alright. I've got a couple of irons in the fire here and there, but I've also been applying for, this is the next one as well, so applying for several jobs throughout the year and really even got a call back. So I've been applying for stuff that's like casual work. I won't name the details in case I do eventually get any of the jobs, but it's been like stuff that I could work in with the stand-up and is kind of social or not performative as such, but performing. And yeah, I've just the job market in I think New Zealand, but also Christchurch is really tough at the moment, and yeah, it's just rough out there at the moment. Like, don't worry about me. I'll be alright. I think I seem to always land on my feet. But yeah, another one of the lows is just you've been job searching before, and it's just soul crushing. Another low for 2024, social media content still floundering. The next section is the social media, which we can crunch the numbers a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't. You listen to all this advice from people about how to get stuff to go well on social media, and it's always kind of just be consistent, post at the same time, blah blah blah. But then you look at the numbers that they were getting when they were starting out, and it's like higher than the numbers I've been getting now doing this shit for like, I don't know, 3 years, 2-3 years. I've been posting stuff online, trying to get some kind of traction. So yeah, I don't know. God, I've tried to make a joke about this on stage, but social media, trying to get posts to go, pop off, feels a bit like how back in the day they used to try and appease the gods by like sacrificing a white rabbit, under the temple of Ares, and between, the waxing moon and all this kind of, they had all these rituals, speak Latin. It feels a lot like that for us, where we're like, you put this exact string of hashtags, you post at this specific time, and then maybe the algorithm is the new god we're trying to appease. We're hoping it, sees our little piece of content and shows it to people. It's bleak, man. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate having to post on social media. I think the older I get, the less into it I am as well. So yeah, I don't know. We keep at it. I like making the skits, but there's just something soul destroying. It's like applying for jobs. You're just yelling into the void. You're not even sure why your stuff isn't connecting. There's no way to it'd be great if you had some kind of criticism, not criticism as such, but if you could analyze it and you can. Pretty much all you get from TikTok and YouTube and stuff is how quickly people are swiping away from it, but you don't exactly know why. So it feels very much like stumbling around in the dark at times. I will say, apparently TikTok is getting banned in the US or something soon. I don't know whether that's going to become like a worldwide thing. I don't think it'll kill the company, because I think it's like a Chinese company maybe. I'm not really sure. But honestly, the only thing I felt when I heard that was relief, and that it's maybe one less social media that I'm gonna have to worry about. I've sort of been putting all my eggs in the YouTube and Instagram basket. I think my stuff tends to do a little bit better on there, and I think my stuff's been doing okay on YouTube. It has not, normally historically not been able to get more than kind of, I think YouTube gives you about 300 to 600 views when you upload something by default, and my latest stuff's been getting around 1600, so that's promising, I guess. But we'll see what happens. And the final negative thing from 2024, the New Zealand Comedy Trust announced that they were doing a podcast fund where it was partnered with RNZ, and you could submit your podcast pitch to them, and they might, give you some money, or I'm not quite sure what. It didn't really say what they would give you, but they had a lot. It was tens of thousands of dollars they had to give away, and I got rejected for that. So yeah, bummer. I'm looking forward to seeing what people make, though, to give us a bit of a ballpark as to what they're looking for. Maybe I'm hoping they'll do this regularly. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they fund, and then we can get an idea of, okay, this is what they're wanting to create, this is what they're wanting to push out, and I will try again next time. Alrighty, approaching the home stretch, we'll go through the social media stats for the end of 2024. YouTube subscribers started the year with 295, ended with 449, which is 154. We had this year got 157,169 views for a total of 304,545 views. So actually not a bad year. I basically doubled my I got the amount of views that I had in total in 1 year. So that's promising. That shows some growth. Taylor Ruddle Facebook went from 467 followers to 611, a gain of 144. The Instagram went from 616 to 744, 128. I think in the new year, when I've got some clips from Panic at the Buffet out, I'm going to trial doing a sponsored post on Instagram and see if I can get some new followers there, because so far the gram is actually the closest one I've got to cracking 1,000, which is a goal I've got later on. We'll talk about that later. TikTok followers, I started the year with 37, ended with 221, 184. That's quite a good growth. But, when you look at how many followers, like my friend Juani Hortene, he went from about 1,000 followers on Insta and TikTok. He had a clip blow up, and now he's at like 10 and 20k followers. So, 184. That's like nothing. TikTok likes 1,115 likes at the start of the year to 4,415. So 3,300 likes. Again, I don't really know the platform well enough to know if that's good, but I mean, I basically tripled what I had, so that seems good. Can Do Comedy Facebook, 715 to 859, 144 new followers. It's so weird looking at these numbers now. I sort of look at it like, I always thought Facebook was kind of on the way out, but I've had like the best growth on Facebook for most of the year. And then the Can Do Comedy Instagram went from 122 to 183, or 61 new followers. So that I need to work on more. Have some plans to do a bit of, just create some better content for the Facebook, for the Instagram page, and try to go less with posting ads on these pages and more content that sort of raises awareness of what we're doing. Podcast stats, released 67 episodes with a total of 2,368 downloads. So we got 845 more than last year. We got 894 views on the YouTube channel. The YouTube sort of just takes your RSS and uploads there. So I wasn't doing that last year, so that's 894 more than last year. The average episode received around 35 downloads, which is 2 more than last year, had 33. The most downloaded episode was episode 33, The Hottest Band in the World, Kiss, with Craig Westenberg, with 117 downloads. I don't know why, but this episode gets downloaded probably like twice a week by people in South America, who I don't think are listening to the rest of the episodes, but yeah, for some reason Kiss is massive in South America. Least downloaded episode was episode 7, Gary Starlight and Infinite Jeff, with Jeff Clark, with 3 downloads. Sorry, Jeff. That was it's an old episode, so I don't think it. People just aren't seeing it. The biggest month we had was in September with 413 downloads, and I was kind of looking at the numbers, adding them all together. We saw about 80% growth, or 88% if you include the YouTube views, compared to 2023. I made a post on Reddit the other day breaking down these numbers properly, and if I remember correctly, if we sustain this 80 to 88% growth the next year, that will end up as around 6,000 downloads total, and then another 88% on that will be around when I hit 11,000 downloads. And I'm not sure what to make of those numbers. I'm sort of looking at it and thinking, like, if you were a business and you had 80% net growth, that's astronomical. But then thinking about just the numbers that I've been doing for the first couple of years, if I sustain this 80% growth, then, geez, I honestly think if you want to be monetizing your podcast, you've got to be getting tens of thousands of downloads per episode. I think 2,000 or 4,000 per episode is when advertisers will start to look at you. And yeah, this podcast is a ways off doing that. I think that's normal though. I've read somewhere that most podcasts don't go more than 12 months. I think if you publish more than 6 episodes or 12 episodes, then you're already in like the top 10% of podcasts, because most people start them and then don't continue, don't follow through at all. But then I was just talking about how this podcast has been sort of like a loss leader for me. It's allowed me to network with so many interesting people, and I think I can justify the time spent doing it, just based on the benefits that this networking has afforded to me. It's also super validating when I do a show and then I try to plug my podcast to someone that I'm chatting to afterwards and they say, oh no, I'm already a listener. So yeah, I don't think Ruddle Me This is ever going to be my cash cow of a podcast, but it is definitely worth doing for the other benefits that come with it. It's like those Costco rotisserie chickens. I think they lose money when they sell those things, but it gets people in the door and then they buy other stuff. So yeah, the podcast is a bit like my loss leader at the moment. Top 10 podcast episodes. Episode 33, Hottest Band in the World, Craig Westenberg, number 1. Number 2, interviewing YouTuber Kit Zakimi. My friend Kit, I've known her for several years. It's funny, I can always tell when one of my friends is starting to pop off on social media, because I start to see their episode getting downloads. With my friend Juani, when he had his clips go viral, the episode of the podcast we did with him on YouTube, which was talking about the movie The Gates of Heaven, which is a documentary, that randomly just started getting views. And yeah, Kit Zakimi, she's recently blown up in the last year or so hence people are looking for her online. Number 3, episode 69, Done is Better Than Perfect with Anto Martin. Number 4, Eurovision, episode 55, Eurovision with Dick McHale. Number 5, episode 76, 4D Creatures in the Roman Empire with David from Down the Rabbit Hole. Number 6, 63, What It's Been Like Working as a Full-Time Comedian for a Year. Episode 7, 64... Sorry, God, I'm messing this up. Number 7, episode 64, Donating a Kidney with Sian Williams. Miss Sian dearly, she is in Edinburgh at the moment. Number 8, episode 71, Singing Smutty Books and Smashing People at Mario Kart, Liv Mackenzie's Tiny Joys. Number 9, episode 77, Breaking Down the Menu with comedian Jeff Wilson. And number 10, episode 97, Am I the Arsehole with comedian Dave Adams. So when I look at this, I look at it slightly nervously, and that a lot of my top episodes are coming from between episodes 60 and 70, although the episode 97, Am I the Arsehole with comedian Dave Adams, and Breaking Down the Menu with comedian Jeff Wilson, those two are ones that I've considered doing more of. Jeff and I have got a series called The Cost of Greatness, where we have recorded an episode talking about the movie Whiplash, which will be coming out, sometime February at this rate. And then Dave Adams and I are keen to do more Am I the Arsehole episodes. So that was the two that jumped out at me there that I could sort of do more of, which is great because they're in the top 10. Okay, goals for 2025. First goal is hit 1,000 followers on at least one social media platform. It's looking like that might be Instagram, but I would also be really happy if it was YouTube. I think I need to spend a lot more time on YouTube this year, or this next year. A lot of creators that I've been following have also sort of started up. People that I'm sort of looking at, like they're doing quite well in the comedy game, have started focusing more on their YouTube channels. So I look at that as a bit like when you see the tide go out before a tsunami. I think, okay, a lot of, or maybe it's like when when you're driving behind someone and they slow down, and you're like, okay, what do they know about this road that I don't? So yeah, 1,000 followers on at least one social media platform. it's an arbitrary number, although like my friend Henry Hickman says, all numbers are arbitrary. I would sort of feel, if I could hit 1,000, I think I would feel like I've kind of, like, all right, there's something here, it's worth continuing. I'm hoping to get at least 10,000 views on at least one reel or TikTok or short. Again, arbitrary number, but I feel like something hitting 10k would be sort of a bit of separation from like the average person. It would feel showbiz or special, like that. Like that's kind of a benchmark I've got. I'd like to get at least 5,000 downloads for the podcast. I think if we're on track to get 80% growth next year, then 5,000 should be doable. I want to produce at least 5 charity fundraiser comedy shows. I've been in talks with the Cancer Society to do a little bit more. We are going to do something for, they are I'm just trying to remember their official, they're like a men's mental health kind of charity called the Yarns Men. I believe we're going to do something with them. And then I think I would like to figure out, maybe given that the sort of state the economy's in, maybe figure out something with a food bank. Given that we're called Can Do Comedy, I've always wanted to do a canned comedy. But every time I've suggested this, people have sort of rained on my parade a bit and been like, oh, just like, the idea for canned comedy would be they don't pay any money to get in, they just have to donate some canned food. But then I think people would rather just give me money than actually go out and get the canned food. So I don't know. We'll see if I can make that happen finally. I want to run at least 3 work-in-progress shows of my new hour, tentatively calling it Who the F is Taylor Ruddle. It's all about identity and trying to carve out some kind of notoriety or I don't know, a character and identity from just being a sort of anonymous white male comedian. I want to release at least 10 articles on Substack with corresponding video essays on YouTube. The YouTube thing will be relevant in the next goal, but I have really been enjoying writing. I sort of enjoy the process of writing. I enjoy the initial getting everything out on the page, but then it's always been the editing that's been tripping me up. But I recently discovered a little writing hack, where if you want to make yourself a better writer, you write everything you want, and then you use Control F, and you find anytime you've used the words sort of, kind of, a bit, really, and little words like that, and then you just delete all of those and find a better adjective. So rather than being very tired, you are exhausted or lethargic. And just through that little hack, it's been really easy to edit my stuff. And so I've written a couple of articles on Substack. I think one of them will be out by the time this episode drops. I'm sure you'll be able to find it if you just search Taylor Ruddle Substack. I've also made, the first one I've made is called 3 YouTube stand-up comedy specials worth your time. Which ends in a cheeky plug for Panic at the Buffet. And I've got another one in the works, which is 2 more YouTube comedy specials worth your time. I'm just going to be basically reviewing YouTube stand-up comedy specials. So I'm hoping to release 10 of those throughout the year. And hopefully I can get a corresponding video essay, because I really enjoy the process of voiceovering my own writing. The part of that process which stops me a bit, is having to edit stuff so that it matches, get the add clips in and photos, and that stuff hurts my RSI a little bit. So that's why I've put at least 10 articles, and then if I can do the video essays, I will do those also. Next one, I want to experiment more with incorporating YouTube challenges into stand-up comedy. What I mean by this is, I've had this theory for a while, I don't mind talking about this, but I believe the first comic who can figure out how to successfully incorporate this sort of YouTube challenge metagame, for lack of a better word, like, I'll give you an example. I follow a YouTuber whose name escapes me right now. I think it might be Emily. I think her YouTube channel is called something like Harp Lady, and she plays a big harp, and a lot of her videos are like, I bought the 5 worst reviewed foot pedals on Amazon, and she does like a review of the 5 worst reviewed, what are they called? You know what I mean, those things that change how your instrument sounds. I'm totally blanking on the name here. Pedals, I think is the word. And just, I don't know whether it's a sort of overflow from the Mr. Beast challenge thing of YouTube. You know, Mr. Beast would do like, I went through the same drive-through 1,000 times. I spent 2 days buried underground, all that kind of thing. I've noticed that a lot with. What's cool about it is like these people that are obviously very competent. Like I follow Justin Wong, who's a fighting game player, and he'll do like challenge videos. And I quite like the idea that these YouTube challenge videos are sort of like, here's someone who's competent at a skill, and then here's them having to use all of their skills and abilities to try and make the best of a ridiculous challenge in their thing. So I'm looking, the only one I can think of at the moment, I really need to sit down and brainstorm this at some point throughout the year, but one video could be doing stand-up blindfolded and just recording that and posting it. Post a little like here's what I think's going to happen, post, here's what did happen kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know whether it's going to be me, but I think the first comedian to really figure out how to make that work is going to be crushing it on YouTube. A couple of short ones. Finally released my gear checklist video. I've been wanting to make a video of all the gear I use as a self-employed comedian for ages. I want to get that done and on YouTube. I want to create at least 2 more Instagram feed review videos for YouTube. This is another one I enjoyed doing. I reviewed the Creatures Comedy Club Instagram feed, and that one still randomly gets like 10 views here and there on YouTube. So I want to make more. I've had a review from a guy who saw the Creatures Comedy Club one and requested that I review his. I think it was like Squawkers Comedy Club. He had a seagull as a logo. So yes, I definitely want to do that. Just need to find a minute to do them. I want to produce at least the pilot episode for my own quiz show format. I don't want to say what it's going to be because I'm actually worried that someone could steal that quite easily. I know everyone, my ideas, but that one I don't think it would be hard to steal. So keep your eyes peeled for my quiz show format. And then the last one, where do I even begin with this? More to come on this later. But this is something I've very deliberately avoided talking about on the podcast up until now. The Christchurch comedy scene has been very fractured, let's just say, for a long time, several years now. There's several kind of, I don't want to call it tribes as such, but cliques, not cliques as such. There's just divides. There's producers who won't work with each other. I get on with most of the producers in town. We all have our moments where we butt heads, but for the most part, I get on with, a good sort of 50 to 70% of the producers in town. And I've never really talked about this political side of stand-up on the podcast before. I wanted to have this as kind of like a drama-free zone. But the reason I'm talking about it now is because we've had some positive steps in the right direction with, various things have changed. Again, don't want to say too much without it sort of getting too in the weeds for like comedy drama, but I'll just say this. We've had some like promising talks with several of us, and it looks like, you can tell how nervous I am talking about this. We've had some promising talks, and it sounds like things are going to be a little more harmonious going into 2025. We might not all work together, but some significant effort has been made to at least try and get everybody into the same room as each other and not necessarily bury the hatchet, because a lot of these things are less like hatchet buried and more like just oil and water. There are some producers that I won't work with because I know neither of us would enjoy it, if that makes sense. It just wouldn't be good for either of us. And so, yeah, there looks like there might be some more collaboration. So my final goal is continue collaboration work with the greater Christchurch comedy scene. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. Things are looking positive. It's nice to at least kind of be chill with everybody again. Who knows how long that'll remain for. I'm, I think, a somewhat suspicious and untrusting person at times, but I'm trying to be open-minded, and I think things are looking good at the moment. So that wraps up the State of the Ramble again for another year. It was a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. Geez, I got a great hate comment that said the podcaster loves the sound of his own voice, and good lord, it's hard to argue with that when you've just recorded 53 minutes of me talking about my own projects. So thank you once again for tuning in. Please go and check out Panic at the Buffet on my YouTube page. I believe by the time this episode drops, I will have announced this by now. So on the 31st of December, I think about 3 o'clock, I am going to be dropping another comedy special. It's an old one that we've had in the can for ages. Never really knew what to do with it, and we're going to make it public because why not? I think it would just be kind of cool to drop 3 comedy specials in 1 year. What a vanity project. So yeah, classy comedy. Go to YouTube as well. But please mainly check out Panic at the Buffet. Classy comedy, you've heard me talking about it if you've been listening to the podcast. It's kind of just like a prototype special. A lot of the jokes from classy comedy went on to become Rudzilla and Panic at the Buffet. So that's us for the year. Last Ruddle Me This of the year. I've got a project dropping soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, called Line by Line. We're going to be going through Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, line by line. I've been really enjoying those podcast recording sessions, and I think you're going to enjoy listening to them too. So I hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you've got a good new year coming up. All the best for 2025. And God, I hope things get better. So until next year, Ruddler out.